you are engaged to yourself.
Yes.
How did that happen? Did you plan a moment to propose to yourself? Did you do the whole traditional thing of getting down on one knee?
It's not a legally binding marriage.
Right.
I haven't found any kind of marriage ritual that I want to do because let's face it, the self-marriage ritual is a self-love ritual. The only person I think I'll ever marry is myself. I realized, oh, hey, that's a good idea. And literally I was sitting there at the computer and I asked myself, Ghia, do you want to marry me? And I said yes. And just like that, I was engaged.
Was it a match made in heaven? Are you happy with this engagement so far?
Absolutely.
Welcome back to the SmorgShow podcast, the Smorgasbord radio show. In its fifth decade, I'm Chris, and this is episode 138, recorded April 9th, 2022. And back with me in the studio, COVID-free conspiracy correspondent, chief conspiracy correspondent. Sorry, I demoted you. Jerome Malauskas. Welcome back.
Yeah, well, you've been wanting to devote me for a while.
Yeah.
Yes, I am plague-free. And I'm back to spread my conspiracy rumors. Like COVID. I mean, spread them like the disease called. You know what I mean.
I know what you mean. So, not a lot has been happening since the last time we got together, which was about 20 minutes ago. Because we record these like back to back and then we just air them 2 weeks apart from each other.
Well, that's because we haven't seen the news feed. For all we know, the missiles are flying.
Yeah, World War III could have started
and we
in
don't
our last
know.
episode. We don't know. So it'll be until like late April before you find out what our thoughts are on it. And everybody's hanging on the edge of their seat waiting.
Yeah, right. If we have an audience by that point, everybody be a nuclear wasteland. But we're getting to. But anyway, that was an interesting beginning to the show.
Oh yeah, we're going to get back to that later on. That was our cold open, but we're gonna come back to that at the end. But since the last time we were together, I've been cleaning out my crawl space. It's that time of year, the spring cleaning.
Okay, John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah, I mean, there's been stuff that I have found that I'm like, okay. So before I get into that, I think that the catalyst for it all is that, okay, so I've gone through a couple of deaths in my family. And I've known what it's like to have to clear out stuff. I haven't had to do a lot of it myself, but seeing my mom clean out stuff and then just knowing. And then I saw something, our pastor had posted something about, you're taking nothing with you and just remember all that stuff you're collecting. Your loved ones are going to have to go through it someday. And it's like,
oh, he sounds very minimalist.
Yeah. So I've started thinking there's probably a lot of stuff in my crawl space that I should probably start getting rid of. And nothing that I'm ashamed of or anything. It's just like, there's just stuff that you just don't want anymore out there.
You mean you got rid of that box of Playboys?
I mean, there's just stuff going back to high school and college, and I'm going through it, and I'm like, okay, this was a time in the past. There's a reason why the stuff is still in boxes unopened for 40 years. So,
right.
I've probably cleared out 80% of my past, gone to the curb, out. It's gone. It's absolutely gone.
Well, a toast to you for doing that.
I haven't really wanted archaeologists, whatever the word is. Archaeologists. Thank you. I was throwing an extra couple syllables in there. Going through my stuff, family members. So my memories are exactly where they belong, in the brain, my mind.
Yeah.
But having said that, the reason why I brought this up,
right?
Well, a couple of reasons. First of all, I've been trying to, I just don't want to cart this stuff around because eventually we're going to move from this place, which I'm kind of sad about in some ways, but I don't want to be carting boxes of things that I'm going to end up in the next attic.
Or crawl space.
Crawl space. Well, we're looking at Texas and there's no crawl spaces there. No basements.
Yeah, it is. It's same thing in Florida.
No basements.
Yeah.
So I came across a relic.
Must be a Midwestern and New England, an East Coast sort of thing. They have basements.
Yeah. I came across this playbill from your past, not Playboy, but it is called the Playboy of the Western world.
Yes.
It's your thespian debut.
Yes.
What, circa 1989, 1988?
Yeah, 89, I think. Yeah,
And you're billed as Jerome Malauskas.
that's right.
Jimmy Farrell was your stage name, your character,
Was it Farrell?
or is it Farrell?
Oh, okay.
Farrell.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And a little quote from you, because they talked to all the cast and they just put something about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, aside from singing a song, they're saying this about you. Aside from singing a song in his 5th grade pageant, this is Jerry's first time on stage, or as he puts it, I'm a virgin to the thespian arts.
Oh, it was pompous even back then.
Yeah.
God.
So I don't know if you've got a copy of this
I do, signed one.
from yourself.
No. All the other cast
Oh,
members
all right.
signed it.
Well, can you sign this for me then?
Oh, later on, sure.
Okay, good. Well, then maybe I'll keep it. Weren't you in a play where everybody got naked? Am I remembering that correctly?
Well, didn't get naked, but we were in our underwear.
Oh,
the
all right.
final scene. There were a few topless scenes.
Was this a play?
No. This was another play that actually was written by the director of that play. He wrote his own little farce, which is, I guess, a sort of a wacky play that I don't even know the technical term what a farce is, but that's what he claimed it was. He said a lot of running around, door slamming, one-liner jokes. I don't know. That was his thing, and then he did this thing. It was called Artistic License. I remember the name of the.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and it was about a dystopian future where basically, if you wanted to get any kind of money from the government for your artistic, like they have these like endowment for the arts grants, whatever that the government would give you, you'd have to go through the kind of a gauntlet to make sure that your art is not decadent or bad. This was back in the day, just after like Reagan and all that, so they had the kind of real hard conservatism that people, more left-leaning people back then in the arts didn't like, and he was kind of going on that thing, but taking it to the next level, saying it was sort of an artistic McCarthyism that you have to jump through a particular hoop in order to. And anyway, the part I played in that particular play was that I played a Senator Pangborn, and what I did was made sure that if you were going to get federal money from us, you'd have to, I'd make sure that the art was good and clean, that sort of thing.
Okay,
that's kind of just. There's other stuff going on, subcontests, but that was my part. And at the end, I turn out I'm actually a closet pervert. I mean,
go figure.
Yeah,
the irony.
And I came on the stage as wearing like nylons and garter. But for some reason, I thought it would be kind of cool to wear polka dot boxers.
I vaguely remember this.
Yeah. And that was on a stage. That was all I was wearing at that time at the end of the play. And we were all singing some stupid song. That's all I remember.
Too bad this was the days before the cell phone cameras. And otherwise this would be on the SmorgShow website.
This was days before they even had the handy cams. You'd have to the
big shoulder cam. Yeah. So anyway, so we were down in Texas last month and we were doing some home shopping, and man, it's nuts down there. Everybody's fleeing to Texas. So there is a wait list of a year to get on most homes. And it's just booming down there.
I mean, that's a rather sad thing that we have a situation where basically we have internal refugees.
Yeah. So, I mean, the day will come when we have to leave this place. Well, this place, the world, yes. Talking about this area.
I thought we were going to get philosophical in this.
Yeah, I know.
In this podcast.
So I have to figure out how to take you with me.
Uh-oh. This is going to be a murder.
Speaking of crawl spaces.
Murder-suicide?
Keep you in my attic. All right, so this week, have you seen this MSNBC article? Have you heard about this?
I keep as far away from MSNBC.
I know, so do I. There was an article that came out on March 22nd from a Cynthia Miller Idris. an opinion columnist, and the subject of the article is "Pandemic Fitness Trends Have Gone Extreme," literally. And it's basically claiming that it's the alt-right who is backing physical fitness right now.
Because, if you want to be physically fit, that makes you a Nazi, I guess.
That's exactly what this article advocates.
Well, if they're coming from the opposite end of the spectrum, then obviously they're very much into fat positivity. So
you're getting ahead here. It sounds like you read the article.
I don't have to. I know these things already. I don't even have to read the article. I can probably tell all the things that she's going to say.
So it goes on. It talks about the rise in racism in online fitness groups that have spread since the beginning of the recent quarantine era. The article comes off more as a less of an opinion, personal opinion, and it's more of a direct attempt at discrediting certain types of groups, or certain groups of people, let's say. MMA, for one thing.
Oh.
Which, I mean...
Joe Rogan.
Exactly. It seems to be more of a direct hit on Joe Rogan with that.
I love Joe Rogan.
Well, he's become one of the most, recently he surpassed the SmorgShow podcast in a number of listeners. He's actually now number one in the world. The problem that the left has with Joe is more of his narrative on certain issues. But I think the one main issue that sort of took him to the spotlight was his take on the virus. He didn't believe in the shot being the one option. Which was made him public enemy number one.
I wonder, did he ever disclose whether he actually got the vaccine?
I don't know.
But it wasn't just the thing of like how he treated his own COVID, which I kind of wish I had been more proactive like he had been. But the other thing I noticed that all the different guests he had in the show,
yes.
Like for example, Dr. Malone and also Dr. McCullough. Those are very big, heavy hitters in the what we call the COVID skeptic. When we say COVID skeptic, we're not saying that they think that COVID does not exist,
right?
But the skeptical about the approach of the clinical approach and also the treatment approach. They have some serious questions that, of course, the mainstream media is not covering, so they're doing it, and they're on Joe Rogan show, and that's why he's in the trouble he's in now, I guess.
Yeah. So in addition to vilifying the MMA...
it's clearly racist.
Yeah. Basically combat contact sports. The idea is that when young, unsuspected men were searching for ways to get fit during idle time, they were lured into far-right networks and recruited. Some of the most obscure groups were mentioned in the article, and of course, the writer somehow finds a way to shoehorn in the January 6th riot and the Unite the Right rally from Charlottesville in 2017. So it's sort of a broadside against all these different, whatever you want to call them, groups. But here's just a couple of paragraphs from this article. Exercising is akin to Nazism. Exercise is a far right activity. And here's a couple paragraphs. It appears the far right has taken advantage of pandemic at-home fitness trends to expand its decade-plus radicalization of fitness, mixed martial arts, MMA, and combat sport spaces. Earlier this month, researchers reported that a network of online fascist fitness chat groups on the encrypted platform Telegram are recruiting and radicalizing young men with neo-Nazi and white supremacist extremist ideologies. Initially lured with health tips and strategies for positive physical changes, new recruits are later invited to closed chat groups where far-right content is shared. This has really happened. To the extent where this is warranting an opinion article.
I love how they say, the far right's taking over the fitness and MMA and all that, and totally not mention the fact that the communists have basically taken over all of academia, but we won't talk about that. I mean, the far left, I guess I should say. But I guess there is no far left here. It's just whatever is true, and then everything else is far right.
Yeah.
Well, true to them.
Yeah. Physical fitness has always been central to the far right. In Mein Kampf, Hitler fixated on boxing and jiu-jitsu, believing that they could help him create an army of millions whose aggressive spirit and impeccably trained bodies, combined with a fanatical love of the fatherland, would do more for the German nation than any mediocre tactical weapons training. The intersection of extremism and fitness leans into shared obsession with the male body, training, masculinity, testosterone, strength, and competition.
Oh my God. That is just the perfect definition of Nazi right there. Being a masculine man, you're a Nazi.
Yeah. Physical fitness training, especially in combat sports, appeals to the far right for many reasons. Fighters are trained to accept significant physical pain, to be warriors, and to embrace messaging around solidarity, heroism, and brotherhood. It's championed as a tool to help fight the coming race war and the street battles that will precede it.
Okay. Again, they say the far right is into this sort of stuff, but when I was growing up, especially when I was watching the sports, especially Olympics and everything, the countries that dominated in the sports arenas were usually communist countries like Romania, Soviet Union, East Germany. They had all these really strong athletes.
Yeah.
So how has it become the situation where, athleticism and strength and even the combat stuff, it's all Nazi now? And then, so what is the far left into now? Like sitting in their basement and crying in their safe suite? What are they? I don't know.
Well, I mean,
I'm trying to make sense of it.
Yeah, one might add that there is some resentment of physically fit people from a certain sector of the left. The body, like you said, the body positivity, anti-fat shaming movements.
Yeah. I'm 100 pounds overweight and I'm thoroughly healthy.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought you'd be interested in hearing about that. This is like another thing. Of course, it's an Opt-Ed, so it's one woman's opinion.
Right, that's true, and there's so many of these Op-Ed ads out there. I was thinking, what's that theory? Like everything can be traced back to Hitler. There was a theory, it had a name to it. Do you remember what that was called? You know what I'm talking about? The something theory, and it's
I know the 7 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon. Is it something like that?
It's something like that, but it's it all can somehow be tied back into Hitler. And that, when it comes to the left, they just seem to find
they're obsessed with him all of a sudden.
It's geez, maybe he's your real guru after all.
All right, so something a little more positive. Let's go into more of a human what do you call event? What do you call it? Those
human interest?
Human interest events. Paralyzed man communicates his first words in months using a brain implant. And his first words were, "I want a beer."
Well, the man has priorities. And to that, I'm raising my beer.
I'm out of beer. I need to go over to the fridge.
Yeah, and then we were to toast him for that.
Yeah. So this is actually a sort of a complicated subject because it's around ALS, which is also referred to as Lou Gehrig's disease. Let me just read this opening, sort of the summary of the story, and then I'll play an audio clip that actually talks more about the science behind this, which I thought was pretty fascinating. So a completely paralyzed man who was left unable to communicate for months after losing the ability to even move his eyes has used a brain implant to ask his caregivers for a beer, composing sentences at a rate of just 1 character per minute. Wow. Maybe
1 character per minute?
Hopefully he ordered Coors. What's a shorter word? A brand name. I don't know.
Bud.
There you go. Bud would probably work.
I want a Bud.
Took 3 minutes to order the Bud.
Oh, God.
Half the time for a Guinness to actually kind of get ready to.
Half an hour later, I want a Guinness.
Composing sentences at the rate of just 1 character per minute. The man also asked to listen to the band Tool.
Wow.
You know Tool?
How old is this guy?
I don't know, but here, I don't know much about Tool. Is there?
Yeah, that seems to be.
Yeah. In addition to that, he requested a head massage from his mother and ordered a curry. A curry.
Is this guy British? 'Cause they're the only ones that call like Indian food a curry.
Yes, it is British. This is from the Independent.
Oh yeah, that makes sense then. Now it's all coming into place. First of all, he wants a beer because we know those British are just drunks. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But Tool.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. The man, who is 36, had 2 square electrodes arrays surgically implanted into his brain to facilitate communication in March of 2019 after being left in a locked-in state as a result of ALS.
That just sounds so horrible.
Oh, I can't imagine. People suffering from this disease have an average life expectancy after diagnosis of 2 to 5 years, although they can live much longer, like the late physicist Stephen Hawking. Lived another 55 years after his diagnosis. And he had that little clip on the Pink Floyd song where that electronic voice.
Yeah. He's kind of known for that.
But I don't know how they made the electronic voice. At the time, I thought, he was thinking those words and somehow the computer translated. No, but it was some sort of a typing device.
Right. But I don't know exactly how he typed it because he didn't have much movement in his hands. But
yeah.
I
think he used his mouth for something.
Okay.
So until now, a brain implant has not been tested on a completely locked-in patient, and it's not known whether communication was ever even possible for people who had lost all virtual muscular control. So, how do you stop Tool? I need a tool.
Tool stopper?
There we go. So I thought I would just...
Actually, to tell you the truth, I kind of like Tool, so...
Yeah, you know about them?
Yeah, they're a pretty interesting band, but they do have kind of a heavy, dark vibe.
Yeah.
They get very moody. They have parts that are really heavy and rock, and then they have these other...
Well, maybe that... Yeah. So. I did catch that earlier on one of their other tracks.
It's mellow, then they go... Wah!
I guess that was the space he was in, man, and being in that condition. I think that's kind of...
Well, it reminds me of, speaking of rock bands and all, it reminds me of that, I don't know if anybody's ever seen... Well, people have heard of Metallica. There's a video that they do where there's this guy, and he's in this bed, and he's all wrapped up in bandages or whatever, and he can't really do anything. So I just think it kind of reminded me of that video. This guy has ALS and basically can't move his body. I mean, obviously, he must be able to. Is he under some sort of like, are they working his lungs and heart? Because how if that's
the muscular movement?
I figured that must be still going on, or they must have some sort of like machines to help him do.
Maybe
that.
an advanced stage, you get to that stage,
and then that's probably it for you.
So I'm going to play this clip. It's about 3 minutes. Sit back and learn. This is an educational show, Jerry.
Oh, well, thank you.
Our participant is a young man, is married and has a small child. His biggest wish was to be able to communicate, talk to his son as he was growing up. ALS is it's short for Amyotrophic Lateral Sclerosis, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease in the US. And it's a progressive neurodegenerative disease. It's pretty rare, and it affects neurons in your brain and in the spinal cord, the so-called motor neurons. People affected by this disease progressively lose all ability to move. They lose the ability to breathe on their own, end up often in a completely locked-in state.
People who've become completely locked in have no means of communicating with the outside world. They can't move muscles, they can't move their eyes, and they are really in need of a solution like a brain-computer interface for communication.
Participation in this study means undergoing brain surgery, having these small electrodes placed into the area of the brain that's responsible for movement. The signals travel down from the electrodes through the wire to this connector, which is attached to the skull. On the outside, we have an amplifier that digitizes the signal and sends the signal, the activity, to a computer. So what we really want to pick up is the activity from the brain as the person attempts to perform a movement. And whenever the person, for example, tries to move the eye, we see change in activity. So cells suddenly start to spike, fire, and we can pick up this activity. We convert these spikes into what we call firing rates. And then we listen all over the array to all these different cells, combine the activity from all these cells. Whenever the person is attempting to move, he can't move, but attempting to move, we see these changes, and this is our signal for communication. This person cannot see clearly, which is just a consequence of the disease. So we're using auditory feedback. We assign a yes to the high-pitched tone and no to the low-pitched tone.
Ja. Nein.
And then we can start to ask questions. We can ask the participant yes and no questions. Do you feel well today? And we wait for a response. A high-pitched tone means yes, he's okay. A low-pitched tone means no, does not feel well today. We can go even further. We can use these decisions to control the speller. Now we're using the very same principle of groups of letters being presented one after the other, and the participant, through his brain activity, selecting or not selecting groups of letters and individual letters.
Ja. Nein.
What a life. I can't even imagine being in that darkness.
That's almost got to be sort of a living hell, I would think.
Guess it didn't feel right to play that clip with all that little chuckling in there. It just didn't seem right.
No.
All right, we're going to end this show on
a lighter note.
Well, I don't know if this is lighter. I don't know what to make of this. I was just intrigued by this. So the whole...
Oh, it's from the beginning.
From the very beginning, I opened up with this person who married herself. I guess she's considered an autosexual, and I didn't really know what that meant other than it's a fondness for yourself.
Well, then I guess I've been that my whole life. I love me.
I love myself.
I'm so great.
So I'm just trying to keep an open mind. I'm just trying to learn. I don't want to be considered bigoted or anything. I just want to listen. I want to learn. So I got a couple clips of this woman. I don't want to make the assumption this person. And here's sort of like clips from the interview that somebody had with her.
Myself in the mirror, and when I spend time by myself, I often feel like I'm spending time alone with a crush. It started when I was 7, and I looked at myself in the mirror after I had showered, and I noticed I really liked what I saw. I discovered I was autosexual before I realized I was attracted to other women, actually. See, I never really suppressed my autosexuality. Like, once I realized it was there, I really tried to cultivate it, and I found it's been really beneficial for me. When I was in college, I had a dream about myself that I was hooking up with a version of myself with green hair, and then I actually went and dyed my hair green. I think when it comes to sexuality, people can be very closed-minded, and if something isn't traditional, then people tend to be wary of it. But I've also heard obtuse arguments like, well, if everyone was autosexual, then nobody would reproduce ever. So I think people just bring their assumptions into it and project them onto me. And it's just a reflection of their prejudices. In college was the first time I went and took myself out on a date. Date night is more special. It's like I'm spending intimate time with myself, appreciating myself for who I am. It's specifically devoted to self-pleasure. It's all about the mood you're creating and the intent behind spending time with yourself that makes it a date.
How has having this label benefited you in your life?
I feel like being able to name my autosexuality helped me explore it more because I was able to know exactly what it was, and it gave me a direction for how I could cultivate better experiences with myself and really experience my love for myself in full. If you feel like you need to take your time coming out, then definitely take it. But I would still encourage you to explore your autosexual desires. They've led me to a treasure trove of self-love. Well, I've had some very fulfilling experiences with mirror. Yeah, I love mirror sex, and whether it's with another person or just with myself. And I also enjoy taking sexy photos of myself. I don't have an fans or anything, but I like to enjoy the photos for myself, and I share them with people who I deem worthy.
Right. So you don't even need an undisclosed website for fans. You can just have this personal Rolodex of photos for you and you only. You are the fan.
Yes. The only fan is me.
I guess if she does have a girlfriend, I'm assuming she said she dated women, it'll always be a threesome.
Yeah.
You know, because it'd be her, herself, and the other person.
That's right.
Oh, also the other thing is, when do we get the flag for the autosexuality? I know that's got to be around the corner. We got the pansexual flag.
Yeah.
Right. We've got the bisexual flag.
Yeah.
We've obviously got the, is there a lesbian flag?
I don't know.
Anyway, so I'm sure this autosexual flag is the next thing we're going to see it. And I'll see it outside of a Target window or something like next year.
You know it's coming. You know it's coming.
Autosexual pride.
That's
Feel
right.
it.
Feel it, man. All right, thanks.